Arachin Daf. If a person has an animal and he looks at the animal and he says, I just want to donate the leg as an oila. What's the halacha? Machlokes. Meir says just the leg becomes sarkei oila, meaning you have to sell the entire animal for oila purposes. Somebody else that needs to bring an oila can purchase this animal minus the leg. Reb Shimon says no. Once you said part of the animal is an oila, the entire animal is an oila. Reb Meir will admit to Reb Shimon in a case where the person didn't use the leg as the Kedusha, but he said something that the Neshama is dependent on, like the head. He said, this head should be an oila, then the Kedusha travels to the rest of the body, the whole animal is Kaddish. If a person was Magdish, not for an oila, but he said Lidamim, just for the monetary value, if he said it on the entire animal, then we use Amigui. We say, since the Kedusha is Chal for monetary value, then it's Chal also Kedushas Haguf. Gemara asks a question, can we invoke two Miguis? In other words, if a person says, I just want to be magdish one limb to the Bedek Habayis, do we say for Damim? Do we say since he said one limb, it travels to the rest of the body? That's Migui number one. And once it travels to the rest of the body, we say Migui number two, it's not just Damim, but it's also Kaddish B'Kedushas Haguf. If a person was magdish a Balmum, Lemizbeach, for its monetary value, so Rabbi was Mesupik. If the whole animal becomes Kaddish, and he had the same suffix by a person, if a person says, Roishi Lamizbeach, my head is no greater Balmum than a human being, you can't bring a human being on the Mizbeach, does it go to the rest of his body? And he brought it right from the Brisa. It says in the Brisa, a person donates his slave or the head of a donkey to the Mizbeach, he becomes partners with the Mizbeach. And we don't say Nidam B'chvayda, meaning we don't say that since it's the head, it travels to the rest of the body, or otherwise known as Eiver Shanasham Tluyuba. Rav was Mesupik, if a person combines two separate things, he says, instead of saying Erki Olai, he says Erki Olai La Mizbeach. So Erki Olai, we know he has to give whatever his erech is, but now he said La Mizbeach. Typically, when a person doesn't have money, we say something called Heseg Yad. The Kohen evaluates him and says, sees how much he can afford for the Mizbeach. Do we say the same thing when he says it specifically, it should be for the Mizbeach, not for Bedek Habayis? Because for the Mizbeach, we always say that you have to give the true value. And we don't have the concept of Heseg Yad. Or maybe, since he said Erikin, there is a concept of Heseg Yad. Rav Ashi had a similar suffix. If a person said, I want to take my Zdei Achuza, this field that I got from Nachlas Ha'aretz, every 50 years, it goes back, but you can redeem it early by a proration of 50 shekel per Chomer Soyer. But the person said, I want to give it to specifically the Mizbeach. Mizbeach always is redeemed by its full value. It doesn't have the Chomer Soyer. Perhaps, since it's Zdei Achuza, you could do the Chomer Soyer. Maybe since it's Mizbeach, you can't. Says the Mishnah, a baby that's less than a month old, which is not on the charts. This chart, the Torah starts from 1 month till 5 years, etc. Less than a month, he's in the parsha of Nidarim. Since he has monetary value on the market, so a person can say, I want to give the monetary value to the Beis HaMikdash, to the Bedek Habayis. But he's not in the parsha of Erechin. Reb Meir says that if somebody says, I want to give the Erechin of the baby that's less than a month old, he's mechuyev to give the Erechin. Why? Because a person doesn't say things in vain. What he meant was not Erechin, what he meant was Nidarim. Therefore, Reb Meir would agree also in a case where a person said, Erech Kliza Alai, the Erech of this vessel I want to bring to the Bedek Habayis. Obviously, vessels are not in the Torah, it's only human beings. But since he doesn't talk in vain, what he meant was Erechin of people. According to Chachamim, by a vessel he's potter, even though there's no mistake that could have been made here. Obviously, it's obvious that he made a mistake, and what he meant was people. And the same thing applies according to Chachamim when a person is magdish his friend's animal. Obviously, you can't be magdish your friend's animal, so nothing happened. But according to a mayor, if he said the words behema zu alai on me, and he didn't just say zu, then he's chayiv to pay the amount of the animal. And we don't say that what he meant is he was going to buy it off the person. Says the Mishnah, in the parsha of Erechin, we have a miyut and a ribui. On the one hand, the Torah says Bnei Yisrael, which would exclude all other nations are in the parsha of Erechin. In other words, Klal Yisrael is, all other nations aren't. On the other hand, the Torah says ish, any human. So what do? We have a machlokes what it comes to exclude. According to Meir, we are marba. We say that goyim are in the parsha of nerachim. You could say, I want the value of that goy to the Bedek Habayis, just like you could do it for a cheresh sheidah v'katan. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, ma'arichim, they themselves could do haracha like a tumtum and androgynos could do haracha. They could say erki alai or erech ploni alai. Now the Gemara says that Rabbi Yehuda, his reasoning makes more sense than Rabbi Meir's, but his halacha doesn't. Rabbi Meir's halacha makes more sense than Rabbi Yehuda, but his reasoning doesn't. Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, at the end of the day, a guy is a bendas, like he has das like a tumtum. And according to Rabbi Meir, he's comparing it to cheresh sheidah v'katan. The issue with Rabbi Yehuda is that the pasuk says, Loi lochem belanu. We don't want to accept monies for the Beis Hamikdash from the goyim. We don't want them involved. So what do we do with that? So according to one man, the money from a goy is not used for the Beis Hamikdash. We receive their money, but we put aside, we bury it. The issue with that is, if we bury it, then there shouldn't be any isser to use the money. If somebody uses the money, it shouldn't be over amila. And we know the halacha is not like that. We know if somebody uses the guy's money that he donated to the Beis Hamikdash, he's over amila. And Rava explains that pasuk was talking about a situation, a special time and place where Klal Yisrael didn't want the goyim involved in the building of the Beis Hamikdash, as the Gemara is explaining tomorrow, was in the beginning of the building, because once the goyim would be able to give money to the Beis Hamikdash, they would have a say in the matter, and they might delay the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Have a wonderful day.